Hi, good afternoon. This is Rick Bodwin from Antares Capital. Welcome, everyone, and first of all, thank you for showing some flexibility on timing this afternoon. Simon was hung up at the airports, and we do have him here in the room now, so thank you for joining us, Simon. We're going to go through a public-only presentation, and then we will have a set of projections at the end for those who wish to see the projections. But today we have with us Simon Ango, the CEO of Superion. He will be the ongoing CEO of the combined businesses. We have Brad Szymanski, the CFO currently of Superion, and again will be the continuing CFO. Kevin Sofield to my right from Vista Capital Partners. And then I believe we also have Colin Motley on the phone from Bain. Colin, are you on? Can you get on it?
Hey, Rick, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, Colin, is that you?
Yeah, it is. Sorry, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you, Colin. We're going to kick it off now. So if you guys could jump ahead to page 5. Bain Capital and Vista Equity Partners are coming together here in a 50-50 ownership of the combined businesses of Superion. Many of you are existing Superion lenders. That transaction was led by us January of 2017. It's been a terrific loan investment for everybody. But Superion is going to be merged with TriTech, another public safety business. Antares Capital is also a lender in that facility. And then the third component of this transaction is a carve-out out of a Vista-owned entity, Aptian. Many of you guys know. This is just the public sector business of Aptian, primarily a Canadian business with some operations down here in the U.S., but a relatively small contribution. I think of this as Aptian and is a smaller component, Superion and TriTech, kind of a merger of equals, if you will. We'll walk you through that. Antares, alongside of Macquarie and SunTrust, are leading the transaction. It's a $125 million revolving credit facility, an $895 million covenant-lite term loan, and a $380 million second lien term facility. We'll note for everybody on the phone and in the room, the second lien term facility has been privately placed already. Going ahead to page 6, just an outline of the sources and uses. A significant equity check coming from the sponsors here, almost $1 billion on the left-hand side, combined with the first lien term loan and the second lien for aggregate sources at $2.2 billion. We've summarized on the right-hand side, the purchase of TriTech actually occurred in June by Bain. The intention was by Bain to acquire TriTech and then immediately merge it with this. Both of those conversations were going on at the same time. So you can see the purchases of the 3 businesses outlined on the right-hand side. Down below, again, a large equity check, as I said, 43% of the total capitalization. Leverage as of March 31st, 5.1 by 7.3. Notably, on a preliminary basis, the June 30 estimated numbers, although not complete, pickup of about 5 to 6 million of EBITDA, so a little bit of deleveraging down to 5 by 7.1. In terms of the first lien facilities on page 7, pretty standard 1% amort, 7-year deal, typical mandatory prepayments and call protection, and again, it will be a covenant-lite transaction. Second lien, as I mentioned before, $380 million, 8-year transaction. That is priced at L plus 750, and that, again, has been fully pre-placed with investors. On page 9, pro forma capital structure. I won't walk through this, but the borrower is Super Moose Borrower LLC. Assume in a couple weeks' time we're going to have a name for the business, so it's still being decided. But Super Moose Borrower is what we have for now.
Super Moose is not the list.
In terms of timing, having this small group meeting today, we will kick off a retail meeting tomorrow afternoon in the afternoon. We're looking for commitments from lenders by August 10th. And then the following week, we will price, allocate, and close the deal. So trying to get ahead of protecting everyone's weight on this issue. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Colin. Are you still with us, Colin, to go through the 2 slides on Bain Capital?
Yeah, I am. Can everyone hear me?
Thanks.
Yeah, we can hear
All
you.
right, great. Well, thanks everyone for taking the time. My name is Colin Motley. I'm a vice president with Bain Capital. I've been with the firm about 8 years, focused in our technology group. I won't belabor Bain Capital introduction here, as I'm sure many on the call at least have some familiarity with us, but we'll just sort of flag that, like these businesses, we have a long history of some successful investing in the vertical software market. Some recent investments to flag: Viewpoint, Vertafore, in which we're partnered with Vista, similar to here, as well as Waystar. Another important thing to mention, just as far as Bain Capital experience is concerned, on page 13, combination transactions like these, which involve significant synergy opportunity as well as some transformative M&A perspective that really shakes up and changes the competitive and strategic dynamics of a market, have become a bit of a specialty for us over the last, call it 5 years or so in our most recent fund. We've done a number of what we call double play transactions that take advantage of 2 similar companies in similar industries, and you can see a number of the examples listed here. Notably, in effectively all those examples, we've successfully executed on the amount of synergies we identified or more. The one I'll flag sort of most recently relevant would be the combination of Navicare and Zermed to combine Waystar, in which we identified $15.5 million of synergies and then have on track to realize $24.2 million this year. So this follows in a long tradition of double play transactions for Bain Capital, and we're really excited to back the team here. With that, I'll turn it over to Kevin at Vista for a quick intro of their firm.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Colin. I won't go through the Vista overview. I think most people in the room on the phone know Vista as well as our track record of cost savings on slide 15. I will comment, though, because we'll get the question. We're 50-50 partner here with Bain on this transaction, as we were in Vertafore. So when you look at the sponsor equity contribution, that's the split. When you think about Bain's 50% of that, that's 100% cash, which they used in the purchase of TriTech, along with some bridge financing from the banks. When you look at the 50%, which is Vista, approximately $300 million of that 50% is Vista cash equity, 200 related to the Superion, initial cash investment at LBO in January of 17, and then approximately 100 putting in additional with this transaction. When you look at the purchase of Aptian, those net proceeds will go to Aptian, not to the sponsors, and they will be used in accordance with the credit agreement at Aptian, where we have the ability to reinvest those proceeds, use them for acquisitions, or pay down debt. And I can tell you the likely outcome here, just given Aptian cannot possibly spend that much in terms of proceeds, we're going to pay down debt at Aptian with the vast majority of those proceeds, in due course, likely sometime in the fourth quarter, depending on some other things which we're working on with Aptian. So it'll be a deleveraging event for Aptian. And so that's some of the cleanup comments I just wanted to make on the sources and uses and equity ownership. With that, I'll turn it back over to Colin to take you through the investment use.
Thanks, Kevin. So just quickly on page 16 here, just a quick overview of our sponsor investment thesis. Suffice to say, we're really excited about this one. I think from the perspective of combination logic, this is going to create a real scale vertical software leader in the public safety and public admin software space. It'll really be the clear number one player in public safety and a clear number two behind Tyler and sort of the public admin focused public administration software space. And, we'll talk more about this, and Simon will get to it in his comments, but we think this is an industry where scale really matters. Referenceability is a key purchase criteria for customers here, and so the idea of creating a vertical leader, particularly in public safety, is a compelling one. And then also, just from an interoperability point of view, there's actually pretty interesting, almost local network effects to this business as you think about the need to share dispatch across county and state lines and things like that make this, company a really exciting leader to back. As part of that, we obviously believe there's really significant synergies in the transaction. We've identified $42.5 million of near-term cost savings. The important thing here is that these are, really high conviction cost savings. I think as we look at the areas that are most affected here, it's effectively not customer facing. So, mostly G&A, R&D type transaction synergies, and almost all sort of, in the headcount variety, which are really under our control. So we've got a very granular kind of at the employee level plan for, what the combined organization will look like on a pro forma basis. I talked about the leading competitive position here. Again, this will be a real distinctive market leader, close to 2 times relative market share in a large public safety software market that's growing and really has real benefits to scale. On the public admin side, all of our work in the space leads us to believe that customers are really looking for an alternative to the leader here, who is Tyler, and we think there's a real opportunity. Tyler's not a sort of cloud-focused company or anything like that, and so this is an opportunity to be a bit of a disruptor in that part of the space. Beyond that, we think there are a lot of really interesting opportunities for growth here. Obviously, just gaining market share against what's a pretty long tail of fragmented players in the public sector software space, as well as the opportunity to execute a subscription pricing transition in the medium to long term, which we've done successfully at a number of other companies, and then a lot of new product adjacencies here that we think the company can expand into organically. Digital evidence management, body cams, things like that on the public safety side in particular. And then probably, relatively unique even for sticky vertical software. We think this one has really strong downside protection. So, the net retention rates here are truly best in class, greater than 100% on a pro forma basis. And a huge chunk of the revenue here, is recurring. Simon will talk more about this concept of predictably recurring services, but that's actually a bit of a differentiator here relative to other, services heavy, software businesses that are out there. And then, we think it's really cycle resistant. No one stops spending money on, police and fire and things like that in a downturn, just given how critical it is to the functioning of a local municipality. So with that, I'll turn it over to the last part of the thesis that we're actually maybe most excited about of all, which is getting the chance to back a really strong all-star team here in Simon and Brad. So Simon, take it away.
Thanks very much, Colin. So, again, apologies for getting off to a late start here. I appreciate everybody's flexibility. My mistake. You should know next time that when you're on flights between Atlanta and New York, you need to plan for a lot more time. So I apologize for that, but thank you everybody for your flexibility and the opportunity to share our story today. So I'll introduce myself and then Brad, and then what we'll do is we'll go through a little bit about who we are and why we exist. I'll share an overview of the company. We'll talk about the strategic rationale for combining these two businesses. I'll then unpack that, talk about the market opportunity, our product solutions, our customer base, our competitive differentiation, and then finish off talking about our synergy plan for the next 12 to 18 months. And then I'll hand it off to Brad to go through the financials. Happy to take questions along the way. If I know that we've got some content, a slide on that later on in the deck, I'll say hold that thought, and we can cover it then. But obviously, please feel free to speak up with questions at any time, both in the room and on the phone as well. So a little bit about myself. I do live in Atlanta, Georgia, lived there 20 years. But as you can tell by my accent, I'm not a good old Southern boy, even though I have made Atlanta my home. Actually had my entire tech career, 25 years, has been spent in technology. Actually started at DEC, Digital Equipment Corporation, for those who remember DEC, when we were the second largest computer company in the world at its heyday. I left DEC and went on to be a serial entrepreneur, did 3 different startups right out of the garage, growing them, selling them in different fields like cloud computing. We were an early cloud provider, in video analytics, and in customer relationship management. So learned how to be an entrepreneur, learned how to innovate, but also learned the importance of tightly managing cash in those kinds